Hi, my name is Brian, and this is Learning to Draw from the Very Start. This video series is designed to teach the beginner that wants to learn how to draw but couldn't find that right teacher, book, or video. This series will teach you step by step the easiest way possible to draw. So get your pencil and paper and let's get drawing. All right, and welcome to Drawing in Perspective Part 2. And if you're just seeing this video, I recommend you go back and look at part 1 before you start this one, because I'm going to just jump right into it. And there's a lot of things that I said in part 1 that you probably won't understand. A lot of my own terminology and the way that I do things to show people that who are doing this for the first time. I try to make my videos as easy as possible, as less complicated as possible. So I do things that you won't see in a standard perspective book. So if I say something in this video and you don't understand, it's because I already explained it in part 1. So I recommend you check out part 1 before you go any further on this one. I mean, you can go, but you might not understand it. But please check out part 1, and there is a description that I leave for a link so you can go there. But if you're here, you might as well stay here and learn a few things. Okay, so in part 1, I drew on the line. I continue to draw on the line. So in this video, we're going to draw off the line. And this is just a quick guide to show you when you're doing your cubes, which is basically perspective, is usually mostly cubes and squares, what it would look like when you're drawing off the line and on the line. And the red one here is on the line, so you will neither see the top nor the bottom of it. Now, as you go further above, you start to see more of the bottom of your cube, and when you go below it, you start to see more of the top of your cube. So if you could imagine that, say this was a building, like an apartment building, and some apartment buildings have those balconies. So if there was someone standing on one of the balconies, and depending on how big the building is, the person would look something, like this, leaning on the balcony. And I'll draw one over here too. There's no space here, so I'll do one over here. So let's say he's leaning off the balcony like that. So, and even the shoulders would follow that line to your vanishing point. But the same thing, that if you were down, looking down, you'd be looking more down at his shoulders. So it would be more of a down view. And these are his arms, and this is his head, like that. So the further you get away from your perspective line, or should I say the further down you get away from it, the more, what's the word, that your boxes will become, the more distorted your boxes would become. So if you're doing a building or whatever, a car or whatever, you don't want to go too far down from your vanishing points and off of your eye line. So let's move on from here. All right, in this example, we're going to do a cityscape, I guess you can call it that. And I've already started it to save some time on the video. And what I've done, I put my eye line up high on this one, because on the last video, I kept doing my squares, on the line. So I said I would do this off the line this time. So, and you don't want to go too low, because as I said, your boxes will get a little distorted. The further away you are, the more distorted your boxes will get. And I have my 2 vanishing points here. They're on the end of the paper. And I did my energy lines, which I call it, across, and then across the other way, which actually made a grid. Now, if you wanted to be precise, and which if I would say to do, is you would measure your paper out, and these measurements could represent on your city floor, maybe 1,000 yards, or what do you call that? I can't think today, but it's best to measure it out and then use your lines to go back to your vanishing point. An acre, it could represent whatever amount of space on your land you wanted it to. So that gives you an even one, and you can tell mine is not really even, but this was just a quick rough to show you guys how to get started. So you have this already. So what I've done was I've already drawn out my 2 focal points. These are the 2 buildings that I wanted to use. So I drew that out. So everything else will go around these buildings. They'll sit around these buildings. And in the red, I decided, okay, these were going to be my main highways. So after you get that, you use the squares in your grids to put the rest of your buildings. So I'll just throw a couple buildings up. So let's just say if this was the main highway, you'd have more buildings on the other side. So I'll just use these, and you don't have to stay in the square. I could bring the other line here, but I would just have to bring, or my other wall. So this is a wall, this is a wall. I'd have to bring it out back to that point, but I'll make it easier for myself, and I'll just use these 4 lines here, these 3 or 4 lines here. And I'll make this one a little taller, and I'll use this guideline here since I already have it. And that's a good thing about having so many lines to help you to determine where your lines will fall. And I'm avoiding using the ruler again to save time. And I'm not going to fill this up with just a bunch of buildings, but I'm just showing you how it would go. So I'm not going to use this line. I'm going to make my own line. And let's just say I'll make this building a little taller than that one. So that will still have to go back to that point. And this one will go back to that point. And then straight down. And of course, these are a little crooked because I'm not using a ruler, as I said. And then this is your main road. And you would have to decide, you know, where you want to put things at. Like there would be a little sidewalk or something right here along these buildings. You know, is this a 2-lane street, or, you know, a 1-lane street? You know, obviously because that big, it would have to be a 2-lane street. You know, things like stop lights, where would your stoplights be? But that would be, you know, on you to figure out, you know, where you want to place, you know, all your buildings and so forth. So let's just say I'll place one that would cut across the street. If I did that, let's place a low one right here. And they don't all have to be the same height. I mean, they could be, you know, taller. I'm just showing you how to use the spaces you already have. And this could be another road here if you want it to be, or not. Just say I'll put one right here, and I'll make this one a little taller and maybe a little longer just because. And I'm still following that line. This one comes, I have to make a new line that goes back here. This one, let's say I'll follow the street line. And it's like that. So once you fill this up, you have your city. But these are the 2 focal points. You can use just one building to get started, and everything around it, you know, just falls into place. And you don't have to use this and this point. You can use 2 more points, 2 other vanishing points to do a building. Let's just say I'll put one here, and I'll use this vanishing point, and I can use that one, but just say I'll use these 2. They don't always have to fit on the same vanishing point or fall on the same vanishing point. And let's say I'll put it here. So this will be my line here. I have to go back here, here, here. Because if you see, you know, an overhead picture of a city, you know, all of the buildings do not line up, you know, perfectly. Some are twisted more. Some are twisted less. A line here and a line here. That would be kind of boring if every building was set up at the same spot. So like that. But you don't want to just keep throwing buildings, you know, 1 or 2 maybe, you know, off in the distance somewhere is great. But if you throw these buildings off right in the middle of your city, then you're throwing everything else off unless you just design it like that. Because your street, if you had another street going there, now you have all this open space. But I mean, it could be for, you know, restaurants. You could have like tables or something out there. But that's just something to think about, that you don't have to use the same vanishing points. You can use different ones, but you don't want to have vanishing points all over the place because you'll get mixed up eventually, and it'll throw your drawing off. So with this one, and as I said, if you get too far, and I'll just use this as an example, you get too far from your vanishing point, it will throw your building off, especially if you have a tall building. So it goes about like that. This one goes, and I'll just use this. And in real life, if you really look at a picture from that angle, it will distort your buildings. So it's not that it's wrong, it's just what it'll really look like. If you go to, say, New York or someplace with a tall building and you stand underneath that building will start to look curved. If you're looking up, it'll be curved, you know, and that's, the building is not curved, but because it's so tall, you know, and I don't know, I can't explain why, I'm not a scientist, but it does look like that. But the further you go away from these points, the more distorted your buildings will look. It's going to be right in perspective, but you know, in the eye, it'll throw it off a little bit. So you don't want to go too far below your vanishing points. So that's it for this, and let's move on to the next one. All right, let's say you don't want to do the buildings, you want to do houses. Let's say you're going to draw a neighborhood and you want to do houses. So let's do this, and this is a good practice exercise for you as well. Let's say I want to start right here. You draw, maybe I shouldn't have started right there. I should have started on the line, but I didn't want to go down that far. Let's say this. I have my wall. Let's do a wall right here. And we'll do a lower wall right here. And you notice I'm not using a ruler again. I'm just being hard-headed. And a wall right here. And this wall would have to fall on this line because this is part of the same building. And I'll do a higher wall like right here. And I hope I'm not going off camera because I'm shifting this paper a lot. And I'll do another right here. So it's a real small wall. Like this. So what you can do with that, you've got your walls, which are simple, just rectangles. You just put your roof on it from the height you had it. And you can do this all day, you know. So if you're going to make a house, you would make a small wall, bring it over, up, and maybe another small wall back here. Down, and then you would bring up, and you would bring that other roof down like so. And I mean, you can do this all day, and these can be, you know, and if I do another one here, let's say I'll use this line, you know, and it would have to fall on this line, that, and I bring the roof here, you know, and you get rid of all these lines, the interior lines that you won't see. And they don't have to be connected, but this is just an exercise, something that you can try and just play with. And we get rid of this too, and I'll keep that middle line just because. So these can be, you know, anything from, you know, houses to barracks to, you know, any kind of building you choose to design. But if you have one tall and two small walls like this, then you have your more house shape, and then you can put those all across, you know, your grid to have a neighborhood. You know, I've never designed a neighborhood or, you know, a cityscape. So as I said, you're going to need your road. You know, when your cars come down, if this is a neighborhood, you're going to have your front and your backyard. somewhere, somehow, and I'll use this here. Let's say this is fenced off, and that's your yard. This is your house. Maybe it's fenced off, maybe it's not. And your front door, your little walkway that comes to your sidewalk, and then your street. So you'd have to do all of that in here, but that's just a way to do a roof. In the same way, if you want to go this way, and I'm just throwing it out like that. And you want to do a small one, low roof like that, it would come down like so. As I said, these are just exercises that you can do if you're trying to get away from just doing the whole, I'm tired of doing boxes, I want to do something else. And your interior, your windows, whatever else. You can put more stuff on top of this roof. Follow your lines. And in the other video, I showed you how to, in my measuring video, how to find the center of any square like that. So if you wanted to put another roof or something, or a chimney or something on top of a building, find your center, go from your line, and then you would have something on top of that. The same way, if you decided, I want to make a skyscraper, and I'll use this as an example. You do your X, you do your plus symbol, and then you can do a square. You can find that's your center. You find your center of any square or rectangle, and then and I don't want to lose myself because there's so many lines. And there'll be a lot of erasing. And then you can perfectly center that off by where your lines hit on your X. Then you can go from there to be higher. And you won't see that one because it'll be behind. So from this line, let's say we go there, and from that line, we go there, this line here, and that line there. So you can continue to build this up, to make, your own kind of empire state building. Just make sure it just goes to the line. Because you don't have to have square buildings, as I was saying. You can just say you want to round one of your buildings off, or you want to make more of a diagonal shaped building to give it some standoutishness, if that's a word, standoutishness. But all your buildings don't have to be necessarily square. If you're designing a city, then, the sky's the limit. I would say, Google, cityscapes to see some of the, designs that, these, I don't want to say technicians, these guys build. Engineers build. I don't know what's wrong with me and talking today, but I can talk. This is just not coming out today. So yeah, and then you could have another one with the roof, just like as I was saying. Let's say the sky's the limit. And the roof coming down, on the other building, like so. That's my catchphrase, like so. Yeah, but there's all kinds of things you can do to spice up these boxes, cubes, whatever you want to call it. So, if you decide to design a city or a neighborhood. There's just so many things you can do to it to spice it up, as I say. And this, right now I'm just kind of playing with the pen. Yeah, and this doesn't have to be split in half. I mean, you can get rid of this line here. And it can be just one big building. It could be a storage building, you know, a barn, you know, whatever you choose it to be. You know, your windows, which is off because I'm not really using a line, but just using it as an example. And that's something you can practice as well. Just as I said, just draw, you know, your box across here. You know, draw a taller one behind it. Draw, you know, a smaller one, you can, or a taller one behind that, and then just go up and down. Just connect them, and you can do that. And you can turn it and go to the side. You know, you can make it come further out, however you choose to do. Just remember to go to your vanishing points. All right, let's move on from here. All right, let's work on a 2-point perspective room interior. And a lot of times when people do 2-point perspective, they always do the exterior, like doing a cityscape. You know, you don't get too many room interiors. So I figured we'll work on that. See what comes of it. All right, first you get your vanishing points, and on a interior room, you want to get your vanishing points as far away as possible. You don't want to get it too close because it throws everything off. Then you want your corner wall, and 2-point in a room interior, you're basically always going to have your corner wall. So you want to put your line somewhere in here, and I don't want to put it in the middle. Let's just put it over to the edge, and that determines how high you want your wall. And just like 1-point perspective, up, and I'm using a ruler this time, surprise, and from here to here, and the same thing. And this always gets me because you have to erase. You don't have to erase, but it's just better because it won't throw you off so bad. Always does me. Come on, get it right. All right, so now you want to erase the triangle lines, and then you have your back wall. So let's get rid of these. This has always been the part that gets me because I see too many lines and it throws me off. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. So you get rid of your triangle, and then you have your wall. So you have your wall here. Now I'm not really going to draw, I don't know, maybe I'll draw some objects in it. So now you have your back wall. So anything you put on this wall, let's say I'll just put objects. Let's say that's a door. Anything you put on this wall is going to go to this point, and anything you put on that wall is going to go to that point. So we'll lay off the ruler for now, and that. Let's just say I'll put an object out here, a crate or something out here. Let's get the ruler again. And down, and this here, and I'm just making some stuff up. I don't know what this is going to be, just some boxes, just shapes to show you in which direction you need to go when doing something or placing anything in your room. So here, and this one will go back here. And it's a little crooked box, but I'm just basically showing you the directions. So if I put something here, like a door here, this would go back to this point. And if I put a window here, it still would go back to this point. So anything on this wall goes here, anything on that wall goes there. Putting it on the floor is a different story. So if I put an object here, let's just say I wanted another crate sitting on the floor right here. Lost me. Here, and I'll lay off the ruler for now. Here, there, there. Wow, almost screwed that one up. And I'll use a ruler as a punishment for me doing that. And down. And then I'll bring that to, well, because this is so close to that vanishing point, I'm not gonna say you throw it off. You change the whole perspective of your box, which is why I'm saying it's better to have your vanishing points far away. And as I mentioned on another one, that you might have put your vanishing points off your paper to properly create the shape that you're looking for. I'll do this one again. I will bring it up to actually match that line. If my pencil wants to cooperate, which it doesn't, I think it might be out of lead. Running out of lead. So that would actually be point 2 here. That would actually be like that. And that's the problem if you don't use a ruler. When you go precise, you throw everything off. I just turned my paper. I didn't want to turn the paper. That line is right. I'd have to change this corner. So I will bring this in just to cheat. And you can put objects, and you don't have to. Everything doesn't have to run to these two vanishing points. You can put another object, let's say right here, and use this point and this point, or create another point, but it will distort. I think that's the word I was looking for. It will distort the shape of your box, but it's right in perspective. And I'll just do a small box on this thing. I feel like I should have some music. Oh, and this point, I said I was going to go to this point. Because if you think about, say like you draw a dining room table and your chairs, every chair is not going to be pushed up, you know, up against the table to be so perfect. And what's the word I'm thinking of as the perfect? Military. I can't think of the word right now that I'm looking for. So there you have another shape, and it's going to this point here, which is still fine. It fits in that room, and you can have another, let's put another one here. I still can't think of that word. down first. Let me draw the thing. Now going to this point to that point, that would be kind of strange, but let's give that a shot and see what we come up with. As I say, you don't want to have your points too close. Let's just see what kind of experiment we come up with. And let's drop this down. Uniform, that's what I'm trying to find out. Say. Now see, that would definitely not work because it's too close. You'd have more of a triangle box. And let's just do this just for the sake of doing it. See what we come up with. It's a great example of why not to have your vanishing points so close to one another, unless you were trying to create, you know, a box like that. This would go here again. Or would it? No. And you would see that. And this one would go here too. But it's distorted because your vanishing points are so close. So in doing an interior box, I'll get rid of that because that's just throwing everything off. In doing an interior room, you definitely want to make sure you have your vanishing points far away. This was close enough. These two were far enough for this box, but this one for this box was far enough, but this was too close. Now maybe if I put it right here, it would have worked out better. But just remember that point, that tip, that your vanishing points have to be far away. And as I was saying before, if this was a dining room table, all your chairs are not going to be, you know, placed uniformly. It's not going to be uniform to sit. One chair might sit, you know, go, let's just say this way. And I won't use vanishing point for that. I'll create my own like this. And that would go to that point here as best as I can without a ruler. So as you say what I'm saying, as you see what I'm saying, if that was a dining room table and you had 6 chairs, each chair would not be pulled up next to each other to make a uniform, you know, picture, because, you know, in real life, who puts all your chairs up? So you would have to use another vanishing point to throw one to make it look a little more realistic, to throw it out there in real time, shall we say. So yeah, but that makes a point. But just, you would just have to keep your vanishing points as far away, not as far away as possible, but you'd have to keep them a good distance so as not to distort your shape. Now realistically, a chair, you know, would go back more. The back of a chair would curve back more, but hopefully you get the point. And this is just a box, you know, on top of that. Same thing, if you drew a box and you decided to do the back of a chair, you just bring it up like so, and then you already have your legs, maybe one leg there. And this would go to your point as well. It's just that this is curved. So that's pretty simple to do. All right, so what I did here is I did 2 examples of a room interior, except I put the eye line way below this particular room, and then you have your 2 walls, and I put 2 doors up in here. Use my pencil to show you what would happen if you put your line way below. So this would be like in comics, they call it a worm's eye view, because a worm is low on the ground and he's looking up. So you would always have that up look. Now, I don't know why you would draw that unless you just wanted that particular worm's eye view, or maybe your building is floating, or maybe it's some disaster thing where, you know, part of your wall fell down and you're seeing up. Maybe it's somebody down here and he's looking up at this person. But when you put your eye line below it, this is what you're going to have. So everything is going to come up toward it. So you're basically going to be looking up at everything. So you wouldn't be able to draw a box or something here. It would be floating, so you wouldn't really see your floor. So that's just an example of what happens when you put it down far below. Whereas in this example, I put it basically right in the middle of the wall. So you have plenty of floor space, you have ceiling space, you have, you know, your wall room too. So this example, I put it above the building. So these are your walls here. And then with this, I just made a grid. I just basically sectioned it out, and it's not like really even, but each section could represent a foot or 5 feet. So depending on how big your room is. And then I just followed each spot to the point, and it could do the same thing here. And I'll just do maybe 3 or 4. And what that does is that will help you to place your furniture or whatever. And you notice I didn't take it all the way through the wall. I just let it end at the wall. And I just do the 4 lines. And that gives you a grid where you can build up. You know, you have your squares, you can build up your box from there, or whatever piece of furniture you might need. And it's just easier to follow those lines because you basically have that direction that you want to go to. Like so. So you can put, you know, whatever you want on that grid, and it just makes it a lot easier. But the hard part is just getting rid of the lines. So if I put those lines back, just getting rid of the lines that you don't need to see your wall. Just remember, you just want your 2 rectangles. So if I did, and I'll just do a quick one, let's say I'll put it right here. Line all the way through, line all the way through, same here. And you got to take your line a little further because this is your actual wall. Line all the way through, let's just say, I'll just do it without really going to the point. So you have a lot of lines, but you gotta have to remember your center or your back wall and your top and your bottom lines, even if you have to just section it off for the moment. That way you see your walls, and then you can erase, as I said, that triangle. That might throw you off. You want to keep your eye line though. Keep your eye line because that tells you where your points are, and then you build off from there. So that is the quick and easy way to do an interior 2-point perspective. And later on I will do one where I'll draw the entire room step by step, maybe in a fast speed video, medium speed video, so you can see where I'm going. So I hope that helped in drawing 2-point interior and exterior, and I will see you in the next video. Leave me a comment if you like, you know, thumbs up, thumb down, whatever one you want. All right.